Welcome everybody to this webinar on the Master Urban and Economic Geography. Today with me, Bianca, current student in our master. She will tell you her experience living and studying here in Utrecht. Bianca, you will join later? Okay, I'll see you later. Just a few practicalities before I start with my presentation. Well, first of all, you have a chat box below in the screen where you can type your question and send it to us. Leo in behind the scene will moderate this session, and Bianca will and Leo will reply to your question. If you have very sensitive question, you can still send to us, so they will not appear, and we will address your question after this webinar. After my presentation, we will have a Q&A session. So there you can send as many questions as you like. So myself, Bianca, and Leo, we will address your question on live. Okay, let me move on. Tell you a bit about the outline of this presentation. Well, first of all, of course, I want to give you an overview of the research questions, the topics, and the issue that you will study and you will investigate during your 2 years studying here in Utrecht. Second, I will give you a brief overview on how the master is structured, and afterwards what you can do with this master. Some practicalities and information about admission, and then perhaps the most interesting part, the experience of a student. As I said, Bianca will step in and present her story as a foreign student here in Utrecht. Okay, ready? Let's start. Well, first of all, as you might know, in our department there are two masters that focus on urban and economic geography. The one I'm presenting today, so-called Research Master in Urban and Economic Geography, is a 2 years master. But you also have a 1-year program in human geography, in which you have 2 tracks, one in economic geography and one in urban geography. If you want to know a bit about the distinction between these 2 masters, we will come back to that later on. Let me give you now information about the thematic scope, the issue, the research question. That's, I guess, the most important part of the story. So the overarching research question that urban and economic geography have in mind is how urban structure affect our everyday life of individuals, but also of entrepreneurs. Cities do differ in terms of performance, in terms of growth, economic growth, but also population growth, and the urban environment does affect our everyday decision. So, for example, as you can see from the picture that are there on the screen, in this master you will study, for example, the mobility patterns and habits of individuals, for example, their physical health. You will study how built environment affect mental health of people. We have a very interesting project on this issue at our university. But we conceptualize, and you will study how cities are not just places that have specific natural and human endowment, but cities are just nodes of a global network. You have a very nice picture there of regions connected to linkages. What are these linkages? What kind of flows connect all these geographies? Well, it can be flows of people, as the picture you can see there, refugees and migration. People do connect and bring with them while moving knowledge, experience, diversity, and this diversity contribute to what we call resilience, the resilience of the urban structure. So we want to know how different cities are part of this global and local network, and that's pretty important because the position of a city in the center or in the periphery of the network can explain whether they can access these resources and this diversity. Eventually, this can tell us, as this story of Detroit, then we can go back to that. I will give you more details. The story of Detroit is telling us how a city can be super successful, as it was in the 50s, the capital of the automobile industry, but then in the late 70s start a decline, and still now it's a very much a declining city. So that's overall a very brief overview of the topics. You can see reflected these topics also in the structure of our master. Here you have a very nice representation of what you will particularly study in the master. So you have 2 years. In the first year, you have mainly taught courses. In particularly the blue color one, courses represent the core, the knowledge, the theoretical advancement in urban and economic geography. The first course is in period 1. It's an introduction to the recent development in theory and practice in urban and economic geography, and it's called the new science of city. Here, the core idea is really to understand cities, a system of networks, than just places. Then you have a course which focuses more on dynamics within cities. So you study in urban social dynamics, things like economic inequality, social inequality, segregation, but also social entrepreneurship in neighborhoods. You have a course that looks at cities from a more meso and macro perspective. And this is urban resilience. That you will study why different cities perform differently in terms of possibilities to diversify or innovation performance. And then you have a very nice seminar-based course, Key Figures in Urban and Economic Geography. And here we invite top scholars either from the Netherlands or from other countries to present the recent theories or the recent research. So you will have a number of seminars in which you can get in touch with these people. The orange color course is some methodological courses. And here you will advance in terms of techniques of qualitative methods and quantitative methods. I can tell you more if you have a question of what kind of methods you will learn. And then you have a number of academic skill courses. These are the green one. You have a couple of them in the first year and 2 at the very end of the second year. So you will first learn how to write proper scientific publication in the writing competencies course. Then you will build up the proposal of your thesis in developing a thesis proposal. And at the end of the second year, when your thesis will be already finished, you will have communication competencies, which is a course in which you learn how to communicate to a wider audience the results of your thesis. And scientific research proposal, it's also a very nice course in which you build up a proposal to get a grant, for example, for a PhD position. The large white box that you see there on the screen, that's the master thesis, and this clearly represents the core of this master. There you will spend a period abroad and you will write your thesis or possibly a scientific publication. So that's the structure, but let me stress what are the key reasons why you would like to come here. That's, let's say, our strength. Well, first of all, as you have seen, I spent quite some time in presenting topics and research questions. This is a research master and you are really embedded in the research environment. What does it mean? You don't follow just courses, but you have a lot of opportunities either to conduct research during the second year, but also to join a number of recent related events. Our Urban Future lecture, where we invite scholars to present the research, but also when you will be supervised in your master thesis, you have lots of opportunity to interact with your supervisor. And it happens very often that students come up with brilliant idea and can publish also part of their master thesis. Second strength, we believe, is the flexibility. In particular, you can choose where to go to carry out your research, and also you can choose the topic of your research. And we believe that's particularly important for highly talented students. It's a small-scale group. That's another key advantage. You are not in a massive course, but generally you can have time and teachers have time and lecturer have time to interact with you quite closely, in particular your supervisor. And finally, internationalization. That's a very international master. I'm a foreigner myself. Bianca comes from New Zealand. As you will see, more than 50% of the students enrolling in this master generally come from outside the Netherlands, but it's also international because you have the opportunity to go abroad for a large part of the master, actually for 2 periods. So you have a lot of opportunity, but also you have extra challenges. What do I mean? We guide you during your studies in order to take the most important decision in your research. What topic you had to choose, where you had to carry out your research, but at the same time, we ask every and each student to activate yourself. So you had to activate yourself because you had to grasp this opportunity. They are there. You can be involved also in research projects that some of our researchers are carrying out, but this is on the shelf. You have to activate yourself, and it's your own responsibility to be involved as much as possible in these activities. All that I said so far, I think it's very well reflected in the list of master theses that you see here. That's just a selected list, and it tells you a bit about the variety of topics, but also the type of location and variety of location where you can carry out either your fieldwork or you can visit a foreign university. So for example, you can study the mobility behavior or the pedestrian behavior of students in Davis, or land expropriation in China, or Chinese FDI investment in Europe, or as I said in my previous example at the very beginning, the mobility behaviors of Spanish people while using electric bike sharing system. So just an overview of the type of topics and research questions that are generally addressed in our master. You can go abroad. Utrecht is connected with all the world basically, but we also have some strategic partners. What does it mean? It means that depending on the type of research you want to conduct, and depending also on your capability and your skills, you can be directly connected with researchers who are doing already research with us, so they are collaborating in specific project in some places. So these are just some examples. We had a very good connection with University of California, Los Angeles, in particular on topics related to economic geography, the Science Pole School in Toulouse, but also Middlesex at a university in London, or Lund University in Sweden, and also Bocconi University, which is specialized in management in Milan, Italy. So that's just a selection of strategic partners. These are people with whom on a sometimes weekly basis we are in touch because of research activities, and you can be involved in that as well. Let me give you a visualization of the people you will get in touch with. So we have senior scholar, highly profiled people that teach and do research in our own university. So the former chair of the department, Professor Martin Deist, is also the responsible of a research center in healthy urban living in our university. The former head of the research center, Rolf Boschman, is specialized in economic geography, but we also have young, talented researchers like Ilse van Liemt, specialized in migration studies. And of course, the guy you see over there is me, not yet shaved actually. Again, what you can do with this master? It's a research master, but it's not just a master to stay into academia. Actually, there are different trajectories you can start. About 30% of the people that have been enrolled in our master, they generally go for a job in the private sector, in companies. Can be companies in the Netherlands or multinational. And you just see there some example of companies that have hired people that studied in our master. Of course, quite sizable group, about 1/3, a bit more, 37% of people that generally pursue a career in academia, either by enrolling in a PhD program And we had very successful experience of people that after PhD went to work at Harvard University, for example, or did PhD at our university, or to foreign university like Copenhagen Business School in Denmark. Or they can be also enrolled as a junior docent, so junior lecturer in our university. And about 20% people that go to the public sector, which can be either local bodies, local authorities like Municipality of Amsterdam, but it can be also international organizations. So we have a couple of cases of people that went to work, for example, to the World Bank. Few details about admission requirement. Perhaps you had already looked it up on the internet. That's a pretty straightforward application. But let me stress a few points. We need to have people that have a degree in a subject that is related to geography, but studying geography is not a strict prerequisite to enroll in this master. So we had a very diverse type of background in our master. People, sometimes also people that have a degree in engineer or psychologists. Of course, the majority of them did already some subject in human geography. We want to have people that have a general understanding of methodologies, both qualitative and quantitative methods. But the most important criteria is motivation and talent. How do we understand that? Not only from formal qualification, but also from the motivation letter. That's very important. You have to show why you would like to enroll in our master and why you would like to study the subject that are at the core of our master. And then the formal criteria is also the GPA, the grade point average, which should be 3 out of 5 or 7 out of 10. This is rather strict criteria, although we interpret it somehow flexibly. So if you get closer, but not necessarily you get that grade, you can still apply to the master. You have to show why you are so much interested in this master. Other formal issue, when to apply. Deadline for European students is 1st of June. And the deadline for non-European students is approaching, is the 1st of April. You can also apply to scholarship, in particular the Utrecht Experience Scholarship. Okay, and now it's time for the most interesting part. So Bianca will step in. Please.
Hi everybody, so I'm Bianca. As Andrea mentioned before, I'm a second year student in this master program, and I come from Auckland in New Zealand. So previous to this study, I did a Bachelor in Psychology and Human Geography at Auckland University, and then I went on to do my honours year in Human Geography, and then I got a little bit of work experience in council, and I thought it was time for an overseas experience. And I really wanted to progress my research skills. So that indeed is what brought me here to Utrecht. I chose the Netherlands because I also have some Dutch heritage, but also because this course really spoke to me. So yeah, the key interest for me for this signing up to this course is my interest in urban geography and understanding how different groups experience cities. And also, yeah, really interested in qualitative research methods. So yeah, also, what does the program look like from a student point of view? So I really enjoyed how the program was structured. So the first year, it is all course-based, and we started off with a lot of smaller individual assignments and group work. And then this progressed into bigger assignments, individual assignments, which then led into a nice progression where we work on the thesis by ourselves. And yeah, I think I would say a normal day in the first year when we're doing courses would entail a two-hour lecture or so, and then most likely working on a group project, or even when we don't have group projects, we often study together. So like Andrea mentioned, there's a lot of self-activation, so you really do need to motivate yourself and do a lot of self-study. But because there's such a tight-knit group, we all work together and can learn off one another. So I'd say that is definitely one of my tips, is not only do you learn from the great lecturers and all of the material, but learn from your peers. And that's what I really valued from this program, is being with such a diverse group of people from, so for instance, in my class, we have people from China, from Germany, from Portugal, from the UK, and of course also the Netherlands. And not only different cultural backgrounds, but also different educational backgrounds. So there's a lot to learn from your peers. And then I guess if I think about what I find challenging, because I come from a more urban geography perspective, the economic geography was a bit more challenging for me. However, because we have cutting edge research and lecturers at the forefront of the field, it's very, very interesting, and the master really makes a nice bridge between urban and economic geography. You can really learn how the two subjects come together and complement one another. And I guess another tip that I would say is to really make use of the connections that the department have. So whether that's for choosing your thesis topic and where you want to go to abroad, but also doing extracurricular things. Like there's a lot of seminars and extra lectures on things that you might find interesting, or like Andrea was also saying, like working in the research groups. And yeah, I guess I can tell you right now, so I'm in my second year, so I'm in the nearing the end phase of my thesis. So I'm looking at Amsterdam was my case study. So I asked the question, in light of the proliferation of Airbnb in Amsterdam, to what extent do tourists and residents feel at home? So I've always had a really strong interest in tourism and this notion of place attachment or feeling at home. And Airbnb is a very controversial issue at the moment with the sharing economy in Amsterdam. And so now you have tourists infiltrating residential neighborhoods where there's no necessarily touristic aspect. What becomes the interest is everyday life. So I've used qualitative research methods to interview both residents and tourists and understand their perspective and experiences of the tourist-resident encounter to actually try and understand whether or not they feel at home and to what extent this encounter impacts that. So I've used this focus as well as mapping out contact zones to really engage with this question. So yeah, that's my story. So now we're going to move, I think, to a question and answer session.
Thank you, Bianca. I mean, that's really a wonderful presentation. And I already got convinced to enroll in this master, actually. Okay, yeah, we can now start with, let me put closer to you, with question. I see here we have already quite some question from the floor, actually, from the video. Okay, let me see the first question by Björn, and I'm sure Bianca can help me out also with some of these challenging questions. Do you think that 1 year of master studies is enough to achieve proficiency in urbanism? So of course this is a 2 years master, so if I should promote my master, my answer would be, of course not. 1 year is not enough. I can problematize or qualify more this answer. Well, let's say not to be unfair to the 1 year program, but the type of skills you build up in the 2 years master, as I mentioned you before, all kinds of academic skill and meta skill, generally are not present or present up to a certain extent in 1 year programs. So also 1 year program have a strong research content, but of course, as Bianca was saying, the type of experience you have during the research, so carrying out a research, is where you really explore what you learn during the courses. So that's really the type of value added that you have in this type of 2 years master. Let me go to another question. Are there more, Dominique, are there more students from University of Applied Science? I must confess that so far this was not the case. Let's say there is no reason why we don't accept or we don't have to accept a student from applied science university within the Netherlands, but that generally, to the best of my knowledge, I've been research director of this master for already 3 years. We didn't have any, although we did have a lecturer actually from a University of Applied Science who had previously a degree in psychology, who decided to apply for the master and actually got enrolled in the master, and now he's finishing the master itself. Let me go to other question. So Ramana, will this require prior strong base of economics to pursue this course? Not really. Economic geography, of course, deal with economic related issues, and so it's not really about pure economics. So we do provide basic thinking about that, but economic issue would be cut across also other courses, also in urban geography. But perhaps, Janka, you can tell more, because you mentioned you didn't have such a strong base in economic related issue. How challenging it was?
Yes, I mean, I didn't have that economic geography background, or specifically economics. However, I still felt the course definitely provided you the tools to excel. So we definitely get the basic readings and understandings and slowly build up our knowledge, so that it's kind of it's understood that we all come from different backgrounds, and the course brings you all together and enables you to develop those skills. So I don't think that should be a reason that you hold back, because we're here to learn, and that's what we have access to.
One more question about this background. Hanyev, again, asking if a background in geography is needed. As I said before, clearly many of the people subscribing for such type of master do have a background, but this is not a strict requisite. Of course, you must be interested in studying topics that relate with spatial issue, dynamics within cities or dynamics between cities, but not necessarily you need to have such a strong base. You can catch up not only during the courses, also, but we're studying additional textbooks, and also before coming, we can provide people with references in order to catch up with the other students and with the main topics. I don't know if you wanted to add something already on that, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I did have a background in geography, but I don't think that necessarily gave me more of an edge over other people in understanding. We all eventually, geography is a way of thinking, and you do pick up on that through the courses. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that, long as you have the motivation and the interest. That's key.
Question related to what you can do with this master, Demetrius. What would be the most common career path in private sector? I would say that, of course, this is a master that provides you with skill that relates with topics of urban geography and economic geography. So any either research unit within, for example, consultancy company that deal with, for example, real estate might be an option. But we do have also people that enter into consultancy companies like Capgemini or KPMG that then use just their own skill as a researcher in a variety of different topics. So they just became consultants of private companies. What makes the alumni of this, then Demetrius is also asking what makes the alumni of this program unique when seeking a job. Well, Bianca, that's a really challenging question. What would you think makes you unique?
Well, I think trained in this kind of field, we're trained to think and understand from a variety of different viewpoints, and I think that's quite a very valuable edge compared to other people. We're trained to have this whole bigger picture as well as zooming into detail. So I think just these study skills or that set us apart is that ability to also, because we're looking at cities from a kind of a bird's eye point of view and zooming in on specific issues, we're really talented at being able to connect those dots and always look at things from different angles. Well, I feel like that is a key skill that I've learned throughout this course.
Bianca, you have more question for you. Do you have enough time available to have a part-time job besides your study obligation? Could that be possible?
Well, I think in the first year, the course was very, like the first part of the first year, the course was quite intensive. I was coming to a new country, new university. So for me, I needed time just to settle in and focus on the studies and understand how the system worked. But now in the second year, when I'm working on my thesis and we don't actually have courses, it's research and field work, that was also quite intensive. But now I don't have a part-time job as such, but I volunteer teaching English to refugees. So I mean, of course, you need a work-life balance and to create that for yourself. So yes, there's obviously time to do extracurricular things. You just maybe allow yourself some time to actually immerse yourself in the program and understand what is expected before you make these extra commitments.
Thanks. Let me ask this question by Bitske. Whether you can move from the 1 year master course to the 2 years master course. So as I said, we have 1 year program and the 2 years program, and whether it is possible. So far, it's not possible. So it's not possible to move at the end of the first year. We do have the possibility, and indeed some students took this opportunity to move during the first period, so at the very beginning. So when you enroll, for example, in a 1 year program, Human Geography, during the first courses, you realize that you would like to move to the research master. You can interact with one of the lecturers, and then depending also on the type of CV you have to still meet some criteria. Then there is a possibility in the first period to enter the research master. But doing after the first year, at the end of the first year, that's not possible for now. Actually, more question to you. It's again about experience of a foreign student here in Utrecht. How difficult is to find a flat, a room here in Utrecht?
Well, it is. You need to get onto it early, basically. So I think there's an organisation called SSH, Short Stay Housing, and through this is a website, so you can sign up. And I think the deadline the registration's open on the 15th of April. So I'd highly recommend that you actually get onto this, because there's so many students in Utrecht. Student housing is on high demand. And in the first year, that's what I did. So I was in New Zealand. I couldn't actually come and view places, and signed up to that, and I could get first in, first served, basically. And I lived on the Uithof, which I would recommend for the first year, because you're right there, can roll out of bed into class, which is great, and they're right there by the library. And the second year, once you get to know more people and how the housing situation works, well, now I live in the centre, which is also an ideal location. So yeah, the key message is make sure that you get onto it early.
Yeah, I can confirm that. Okay, I'm afraid it was very nice to stay with you today, but we had to wrap up. Let me give you some more information. If you have any other question, just please contact me, send me an email, and we will send you also an email with a link to this video. I hope you can see it again and watch it again, but there will be also a link to a survey. That's extremely important for us. We will love to have your feedback, so please fill out this survey. Okay, I think that's all for today. Have a nice day and enjoy.